Hello, everybody.
Yo, yo.
It is me and Drew from the Paper Dungeon, and this is Table Scraps, the show that we run on Thursdays about the show that we run on Mondays, where we play Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, and we are almost done with a 3 year long, no, 3 year?
Yeah, 3 years.
3 year long campaign?
3 years of this insanity and madness. Get me
Oh
out.
boy.
I'm
Um,
joking. I'm joking. It's been a great time.
I mean, right now, I've got a headache, so get me out is a fair statement. Um, so, I can't guarantee how long this will be. This might be very like a militaristic episode where I'm just like, "Brah!" and then we
Even
just all
more
get.
militaristic than normal.
Yeah, well, normally we end up rambling, but I don't know if I can even do that today. Um, so I'm gonna try to hustle through this because, do I need an adult and probably some Tylenol. Um, First off, we have plugs. We have social media: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We've got YouTube podcast where you can watch up on old episodes. You should do that.
Yeah.
We have
Patreon.
Patreon, the best place if you want to support us and get additional content because we will be back with it. We are certainly running slow on that
Yeah.
one,
When
but we will be
when you
back.
when we the only time that all of us can meet together is Monday evenings.
It's
It's
rough.
real rough to get extra content outside of Monday nights.
And let me tell you, as soon as we are hitting um, campaign 2/book 2, I think
Book two.
I have a lot of plans. Got a lot of plans for things to really pick up the pace.
Yeah.
And I've got some gym jams that I've got started that shouldn't require us needing to get together to be able to do, which is pretty sweet. So
Yeah.
hopefully that will maintain consistency for Patreon. We also have a website, www.thepaperjunta.com, on which we have a merch store. Go check that out. And we have a Discord. The Discord is sweet. It's filled with people that like each other, like Dungeons and
And like
Dragons,
Dungeons and
and
Dragons.
like TPD. And it's a good place to be. People post a picture of cookies that
Well,
they
I
baked.
most of them like TPD. I think.
Yeah, I think
There's
every once in a while we have a person who ends up there. They're like, "Well, I like Dungeons and Dragons. I don't exactly know why I'm here though."
I don't know what this show is.
And shout out to those people. You made it to the Discord, and I don't even know how you did it, and you should be proud of that.
Just
Um,
click the link, dude. I don't know what I'm doing.
yep. So, if you want other ways to support us, we also have a Ko-fi and a Streamlabs donation. Of course, you can sub if you have Twitch Prime. Through Amazon Prime, you can get some free subs. It's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
then easiest way, just bring your friends, talk about us. Bring a person over, and be like, hey, these people are really trying, and for the most part, they're pretty
And
good.
and shout out. Speaking of subs, gifting subs. Shout out to Handskate who
Yes,
uh
is the
continually gifts me
yeah is
subs
the
to my
only
own
reason
show.
that Drew is a subscribed member of the Paper Dungeon.
I always appreciate that. So thank you, Hands. I see you in the chat right now, being an uh absolute support of the show, and
I agree,
always.
Handscape. I think that we've really lost a lot in terms of video quality. Um, we just severely downgraded over time, right? Like,
Wait. Like the first 20 episodes of the
yeah,
show
first
were
20
of the
episodes.
campaign were better
Oh
than
yeah,
the previous.
without a doubt.
How many episodes? Oh, wait, let's see. Okay,
I
hold on,
have
hold
no
on.
idea, man.
We just did episode 39 of chapter 2, which is 109 episodes. So the previous 89 episodes have been worse than the first 20. That's what you're telling me.
Yep, I'm just saying. I don't know if I can disagree. Um,
I don't know, because I feel like DJ's webcam has not always been of the highest quality, especially for the first 20 episodes.
I don't know what you're talking about. Um, Man, those early episodes are a journey.
They really are.
Whew. It was the weirdest thing. I remember what I was looking for, but I went back and watched early episodes,
They're
early
wild, dude.
episodes, and I was like, wow, that is an
We
episode of the
uh-huh.
Paper Dungeon, and then
I did.
I hit like the middle, and I was like, you know, this is actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like I watched like beginning of book two or chapter two,
Uh-huh.
and like kind of the last 75%. I was looking for a specific clip. I remember what I was looking for. Well, no, that was a different time. I was looking for something, and I just couldn't find it. But I ended up watching some of these things. I was this was this was actually pretty funny.
We were actually kind of good at this
Because yeah,
once.
as much as I talk about it, like in kind of a negative sense, like my perception of the early episodes of TPD is pretty low, and I think that in our hearts we all kind of knew that it was.
Well, so here's the thing. Here's the problem with the early episodes. None of us knew what we were doing.
Absolutely.
And so the enjoyment for us at least was just us all being there because it was just this new, exciting, like crazy
Yeah,
thing. How we maintained any viewership, I have no idea.
I couldn't tell you.
Because
It was not
yeah,
good.
there were
Um,
I mean, like I'm a little less critical than Aaron. Like there are some pretty good gems in there, and some
yeah,
pretty good episodes, but there are also other episodes where it's just like, huh, that was something.
yeah, and it very rarely was like I agree that there were some hidden gems. There were some good comedic bits, like there was some very very good stuff that even if it were to happen now would just be still considered very good. But, um, yeah, exactly. Handscape. Someone has to make sure that Drew subscribed. Um, but like, whew, sometimes, like most of the
the
time, those
real
really good
the
moments.
real reason that
Yeah,
Handskate has stuck out with us
it's
this
just like, oh,
entire
this
time.
guy.
It's just been like, all right, I better make sure that this one just random loser on the internet at least doesn't, at least is supporting
I know
his own
he's
show.
trying.
You know?
He's trying. But yeah, like the good moment. Like we very rarely had an episode that was just like red hot bangs from start to finish. Like
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple, I would
yeah,
say, but I mean, because it
they were like hard to find, and it was like
it
by
was
complete chance that it happened.
I feel like most of the time, well, see, here's the tricky part, right? Like red hot episode. Okay, like I don't even think red hot episode is necessarily even possible for us. Not because like it's not something we can achieve, but it's not something we're necessarily striving for, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Like in the sense of like we're still a bunch of friends just hanging out and playing a fun game versus like Critical Role, for instance, are all very much high-end professional actors who even on a bad day can perform red hot, you know?
yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Is like, I think that we've had a like once we hit like the third quarter of chapter one, I think that it wasn't that every single episode that we put out was just like, ooh, hot dang. Um, but it was like there was a lot more consistency of like the episodes being like having a lot of really good moments in them and like consistent
Yes,
and
yes.
comprehensive.
I would say, yeah, the big reason why early campaign is rough is just because it's very well, I mean, it's just rough, it doesn't have some of that more consistent
Yeah,
factors of
and
figured out what
that just
works
comes with
and sticking with
experience,
that.
like
Yeah,
knowing
exactly.
what to do, how to do it. Um, but speaking of the late game now, to get actually onto the subject of what exactly we're here for.
Thanks, Hans.
Oh yeah. Um, this past episode. So to kind of sum up what's been going on, the entire party died. This is spoilers, by the way. So
Yeah,
you should
yeah.
know
If
that if
you
you're
are
here.
watching this and haven't watched the past 5 episodes, what are you doing?
We don't care
Go
about
watch
we don't
those.
care about spoilers here. So if you don't care about spoilers,
If
welcome
you're
to my
if you
life.
haven't watched those episodes because the podcast hasn't been updated, I am sorry.
Yeah, how dare you, Drew?
I I
How
have
dare?
been I've had a busy couple weeks and then I was sick for a whole week and then I'm just now getting back on my feet. So like, we're trying here.
um, but yeah, so be prepared for spoilers.
I need
I'm the
Wander
type
to
of
yell at me.
person
That's
who
what I need.
just I just have never cared about getting spoiled about things. It doesn't bother me at all.
I mean, for me, it depends on the thing. Like, if it's like an anime, it's like, whatever, you know. I was gonna get there eventually, right? If it's like a movie, then I'm a little more upset.
Hanskate, could you clarify the sentence? I might actually did for spoiler. I am so sorry. LOL.
Wait,
You,
wait.
you
I'm okay.
lost me.
Wait. So hey, I'm actually behind, so I might actually. Oh, I think she said I might actually dip for
Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah, because she's behind. I see.
Okay, I get that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that is entirely chill, Hanskate.
Well, well,
Don't feel bad.
Handskate, if that is the case, then thanks for being here. I guess we'll see you next week.
It was nice to have you. Be prepared because I'm
Handskate, what
going
are you
right
what are
into
you
it.
doing falling behind? You're our man. What are we going to do now?
I'm going right
Our
into it. Uh, the group died. This was several episodes ago.
yeah, it was.
Um, and then we didn't. And then we came back. And then we split
And
into multiple groups. Goodbye, Handskate.
and to quote
Run
our
quickly, because there's no stopping the train now.
and to quote our DM, we didn't do the D&D thing where you die and you come back. You We
Until
died
we
and we're
did.
actually dead, and then we came back.
Yeah.
So we actually did still do the D&D
No, I
thing.
love it. I find it so funny. I'm like, because there's a lot of ways to like come back from up TPK, depending
Right.
on how your
Well,
DM
yeah.
runs things, right? So
Yeah.
like,
Well, I mean, when your party is supposed to be like some of the most powerful mortal beings on the planet,
mm-hmm.
it's very hard to just have a TPK and then like still finish the campaign without bringing
Oh yeah.
back your players.
And as like a storytelling media form, that we are, like our options are much more limited than a
Yeah,
traditional
it's
Dungeons and
like
Dragons campaign. Like you
it's all
can't just
right,
be like,
guys. We're
"Mm,
just
you're
we're
back."
just gonna end the story right there. It's all done.
Yep,
Everything's
someone else
horrible.
takes over as DMing. But yeah, we come back, and then we are split into three groups, which I love that idea. Big fan of it. First group goes and fights the dragon that kills us. That was
Yeah,
Cather and the boys,
and the boys. Team
aka
Smite Knight returns.
his almost brother-in-law, and
His almost brother-in-law and
his
his
man wife,
also well, okay, well actually well
his
here's the
work
funny thing.
crush.
Here's the funny thing, Aaron, about that is both of them could qualify as almost brother-in-law
Yeah,
because here
but they're still flirting. They aren't like engaged.
oh yeah, 100%. I do find that thought also kind of funny.
Um, and so the Swole Squad heads out, kills a dragon. Um, Abinthy and Abinthy and the harem, Lorelai and Miriam Azima,
Yeah.
go and they head to kill Wisteria. Well,
Oh my god.
to
I mean,
wound Wisteria Vale.
it does fit that anime that Avanthy. Oh my goodness, Avanthy, who is our anime protagonist,
It's
would
true.
have a harem episode
Little did you guys know, we were in a harem anime the whole time.
the whole
Um,
time.
It's really
Ever
funny
since
because
ever since Track died.
we end up and each character is just the main protagonist of a different genre of anime, right? Like
Yeah,
Cather is,
yeah.
and they're all shonen.
Oh,
So
100%.
Cather is your traditional shonen, like shonen manga, like action, like Bleach,
Yeah, like
gosh dang, Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, where it's just like a bunch of
yeah,
like
just
JoJo's
really
Bizarre Adventure, where it's just a bunch of
yeah,
buff dudes like fight
yeah.
other people and then defeat them with the power of friendship and muscle. And that's like the thing. I feel like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is right or like Fist of the North Star. Have you ever seen that?
I have not seen
Because
I have
it
not seen
is
that.
so it is so Cather. If Cather
I
had a
mean,
favorite anime, it would be Fist of the North Star.
it would be I mean, the first thought that comes to mind for me is Demon Slayer.
Nah, dude,
Um,
they're not nearly
but
jacked enough.
well, I mean, okay, but that's because they are pretty jacked. But the thing is, they're only teenagers. You know, they're like
Yeah,
14
yeah,
years
yeah.
old.
I'm
So
telling you, dude.
when they're adults, then they'll be jacked enough.
Let me find
When
it.
they're all like Yome and 27 years old, you know.
Okay, I want you to
All right,
Google
okay,
Fist of the North Star
all right. Give me
and
1 second.
literally tell me that the first thing that comes up is not Cather's favorite anime.
Fists of the North Star
By the way,
manga
this show
series.
is
Ma
wild.
the manga series or the film? What am I
Oh,
looking
literally, it just doesn't matter. Just type in Fist of the North
at?
Star
Okay.
and search it. First image that comes up. Is it the one where he's backed by lightning?
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Tell me that's not Cather's favorite show.
I mean, that's pretty sick, dude.
Dude, first episode of the anime
Oh my
that
goodness, dude.
is if it like tracks these two people driving through an apocalyptic wasteland, Mad Max style, being chased by a bunch of like bandits as they drive like up the stairs of a skyscraper. Then they're trapped, knocked out the window. They land on the ground, surrounded by the bandits, and then like a building starts to fall over because they see someone walking towards them menacingly. He seems to be like encased in stone almost, and as the building falls onto him, he just continues to walk through the falling building. Like it hits his head and just goes and just his body starts just cutting through the building as he approaches them, and eventually like the stone is knocked off his body and it's just the main character standing there all jacked. And like it's the anime where the like umae wa mo shinderu.
Oh, that's what
like,
that's
from
composed.
Fist of the North Star. Like,
You know, yeah, I think you've won me over with that. That's
dude,
yeah, 100% accurate.
absolutely is like Cather would be in that anime where he just shows up
Yeah.
and he's like, Kojiro, I'm here. Lightning flashes behind him. He's just jacked in the background with a sword. And then you
Somehow
have
he's
Abenthy.
lost all of his armor.
Yeah, Abenthy is in an isekai harem anime, and he just doesn't remember his previous life.
Mm-hmm.
You're reborn
He's,
into another world as an ultra powerful wizard.
I mean, I would just say Mushoku Tensei, but
into another world as a
But,
tailor.
as a tailor, there you go.
And then just hot people keep joining the harem, and that's Abenthy's life. And then I assume Edwards is a slice of life.
Oh yeah.
Like he's
100%.
he's in the Shonen Jump
His-
manga, but it's like
Well, see, his is actually also an isekai, but it's the wholesome isekai where it's like, you know, reborn into the new world, and I'm a chef or something like that.
yeah,
You know.
reborn into another world as a noble son.
Yeah.
And like just very traditional stuff. But yeah, we're all just and like the coolest part about it is if these were all anime, like you would super see
Oh my
the other
goodness.
characters
Well-
in it,
Oh my goodness, Aaron! I just remembered.
but as side characters.
Edward totally is the anime. I watched this like a couple months ago, but it's like, I got kicked out of the heroes party, so I
Yeah.
retired.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
retired
Also
and like live in a log
fantastic anime.
in a log cabin or whatever, and like literally it's just this super powerful adventurer who's just chilling in,
Who's just
some
there.
small village.
Hello. But yeah, and the best part about it is like you could watch one of them and you would be seeing those characters. Like if you watched the Fist of the North Star Cather show, like they show up as side characters and they're animated exactly like Cather is because it's through Cather's eyes. So like Abenthy shows up and he's like thinner but still jacked. And he's like Cather, we need to find the enemy and destroy them. And then Edward is like sitting on a building, like leaning up against it, and he's like, Abenthy's right, Cather. But we can't do it without our incredible muscle. And then it goes over to like Abinthes. Everything's like bright and cell shaded, and everyone's just like really hot but smoothed down a lot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And like really overpowered dumb stuff keeps happening.
Oh my
And like
goodness.
the other characters are relegated to the like people who explain what Abinthe is doing.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's Cather's like, incredible. I didn't know that he could do that. And Edward's like, what do you mean? What's going on? It's like that. And then it gets to Edward. For some reason, I imagine in Edward's anime, we're in high school. Like
Oh yeah. Yeah.
all the things that are happening is Prozius is just a really terrifying school teacher.
Yep. 100%.
And
Yeah.
and it's just like,
Clovar is just the principal that
exactly. Who
that
wasn't at the school for a super long time, but then the school board voted to bring him back.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
and
Oh my
he's
goodness,
just, like,
yes.
he's, like,
And
running
the
class.
anathema is just the school board.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness, it works so well.
And so it's just like
Bro.
Cather is the student, like they're in high school and they're supposed to be like 16, but Cather looks like he's 35.
Yeah, 100%.
And you're like, why is this guy in high school?
why is he here?
And Abinthe shows up and he's like the cold nerd in glasses.
Yeah, who's secretly in the sewing club?
Yeah, and at any point in time he'll be like, and then the glasses do the flare.
Right, yeah.
And he's like,
100%.
I've seen your next move. And they're like, this dude is weird. But he's also in the sewing club.
Yeah, but he's in the sewing club. Yeah.
And everyone's
And
like,
then,
oh my goodness, he's so heartfelt.
And then Edward is the popular kid who's known because, he plays the violin like super well.
And he like just transferred to the school.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's if this particular slice of life anime was happening in Japan, he's like the transfer student from Europe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And his rivals are just other musicians in the school that he has to defeat.
Oh my goodness, and it works well because Edward's a half elf.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he's like, wow, he's not from here. Have you seen the like One Piece high school thing?
Oh no, I haven't.
There's two things. One Piece has an actual manga version that is just based in high school.
Like a whole story arc just of the in high school
show. Like the whole thing, the whole manga is just based in high school. So like,
wow.
Like all the characters are just like, oh, like Zoro is just someone who does like sword stuff at the high school. He like lost a tournament, and it's like a really big deal. And like, but the thing is, they aren't like high schoolers. Like they're in high school, but they are the exact same characters that they would be in the actual show. So you'll have like Whitebeard show up, and he's like, it's like Whitebeard, high school senior, 58 years old. And he shows up, he's just jacked in a school uniform, and he's just throwing people through walls. It's an incredible thing. And then they also did commercials. Dude. And they're like some of the best commercials I've ever seen, where they're for like a food thing. Like if you Google One Piece anime school, you'll find like commercials that are them animated in a school setting, and they're like really well animated. Like, I want to watch this show. It's like really good looking. But yeah, so that's my brief tangent. I was wrong. We will go on a tangent. But now that we've done kind of all of our three individual things, Edward goes off and he finds a piece of the Rod of Seven Parts and reconstructs a temple, and we fight a spider lady. It was great. That leads us to this most recent episode where the party gets back together and we kind of plan for the future.
Yeah. And we have our big Avengers Assemble moment.
Yep. I've been waiting for it for a long time. Because the moment that we saw those big transmitter devices, I was like, you can see me in the episode. I'm like, DJ, how easy would it be for me to use those to broadcast?
It's like, just curious. I'm just asking.
Yeah, like how hard would that be?
The
I was hungry for it.
answer pretty easy for Avonby.
Well, yeah, I realized that now that we're at level 20, my proficiency is with Arcana is plus 17.
Yeah, dude, that's absurd.
So like I rolled like a 13 on die or something, and it was like a 40. And I'm like, oh no, or like a 30. 30, 31.
I
13?
know
know
everything.
Yeah, which means that the highest I can go without additional assistance is a 37. If I have Edward nearby, I could theoretically hit a 45 if I crit, and then rolled an 8 on a d8.
Right, yeah, and got the
which
additional.
would be sick to happen.
Dude, 100%. Well, let's see. In theory, let's see. What's Cather's highest thing? Probably athletics. I think I'm proficient in athletics.
Probably. If you aren't proficient in athletics, I'm a little concerned.
Yeah. Although, but even still, so my highest thing, which is athletics, is only a plus 11.
Sounds about right.
Which is still pretty good.
I mean, that's the highest that most people will be able to go.
It's just absurd because you have expertise,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore you are ridiculously good at stuff.
Well, I'm ridiculously
when it comes to
good
Arcana.
at that one thing, yeah.
Yeah, that one thing. You only have expertise in one thing or two?
Yeah, because I took a feat for it. Okay. I took the skill expert feat, which is very good. Specifically because I wanted proficiency with a weapon as well, and I'm pretty sure that does that too. Where you can like choose proficiency with a weapon,
right,
and then like a skill, and if you're already proficient in it, you become double proficient in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so we start off in our individual groups, and we kind of finish off any role play that needs to be done initially within those groups.
Within the little pods.
Cather's, like, I loved the conversation, like, in Cather's little pod.
Yeah,
like, there were some killer moments in there.
I literally thought about that like the day before, and like literally just thinking about, it's like, okay, I really want to make sure that I have some sort of like fun, like a very meaningful moment before with just the three of them before they go back to the others. Mostly because I'm selfish and I someday want art of this kind of climax, and I in my head I can literally see it in my head like a moment of Cather like walking like through this cave or whatever, walking out in like a starry field with his arms like wrapped around Kimura and Visine just laughing, because that's like the most wholesome thing. That's like the most wholesome moment Cather gets of the entire campaign.
It was very nice.
But yeah, anyway, like literally, like I thought about this. I was like, okay, well, like, what could I do that would be like really meaningful, and like help expand both Cather's character and kind of some of the things that haven't necessarily been very explored by him, but also very much explore Visine, since we definitely have not gotten to do that at all, and this is like the last chance we pretty much will have to do something like this, which I thought was very, very cool.
I mentioned it to you in the break. Well, actually, you brought it up, but. Like, thank you a lot for trusting me enough to start off an important moment by being like, hey, this is something that this other character, which I was playing, said to me once. And immediately I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, gonna have to deal with this.
Well, yeah. I mean, you did great with it. I mean, like, because with that in particular, I mean, first of all, you are one of the best like role players that I know. Like,
I try.
Aaron. For those of you who don't know, Aaron, out of the full cast, is by far the most genius level role player that we've ever had.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad to hear that. I put a lot of work into it.
Like, dude, literally, like, at least for me, like, really like helps elevate the bar of what we can do with this show. Anyway, that's an aside. But with that particular moment, like, I wasn't even sure, like, if DJ was still going to have us role playing the different characters, or if those were just going to go back to being NPCs or not. And so when we started off, with we're still like in the cave or whatever, right? And DJ's having you and Grant role play as Kiamor and Visor. I thought, okay, all right, that's fine. Like Aaron, like I mean, like I said, I trust Aaron enough to be able to handle this. And even if he stays relatively silent, that's fine. Um, I can kind of help guide this. And then I mean, then yeah, then I teed you up and you smashed it out of the
Mm-hmm.
park, and it was fantastic,
It was
dude.
a. I mean, I had a lot of fun. It was a very good moment. Um, we moved on from that group to Edward's group,
Yeah, my
um,
boy.
which was exactly as Edward group is expected to be.
Yeah,
Pretty normal and wholesome. Like there wasn't
yeah,
anything crazy
pretty
that
chill.
went down. Um,
We recovered the the Vastrusian blade that we had
yep.
asked the dwarves to make because a lot of had messaged us and be like, "Hey, blade's ready. Come get it." We're like, "All
Mm-hmm.
right, let's do it."
When we show up, we get a sword and then kind of get out of there. And then we head over to Abinthy's pod, and I get to have two things happen that are like two of my favorite things to do. One, I get to threaten someone. I
Mm-hmm.
love threatening people. It
Mm-hmm.
is like some of the easiest role playing that always feels cool to me. Where you just get to sit there and you're like, no, this is not your time to talk. This is my time to talk.
That was yeah. That felt very Abinthy.
Yeah, and I think that went well. Thank God I didn't have to roll an intimidation check, because let me tell you, wouldn't have gone well. Um, and then I get to give a speech, a big old planned speech, and I love speeches. Big fan of speeches. And speech class, good time.
Yeah, dude.
And then everyone
100%.
else gets to give a speech too, and I think that it went very very well.
Yeah.
Um,
And with the speeches especially too, like I think all of us tried to have an overall a well put together speech, but it did kind of feel like we all kind of touched on different
yeah,
aspects, like different things, which was great to see too, because again, that kind of just showed the different perspectives of all three of the characters, and and kind of just again kind of help show off their personalities and
oh
their aspects.
yeah, and I kind of like I wrote mine up in such a way with that kind of idea in mind, hoping that you guys would catch on, which I think that you did very well. Of like, we are each individually speaking to people that are like us, where
Hmm.
Abinthy is speaking to the people who have been shunned and betrayed by the gods, who, when they hear Clovar, are like, finally reprieve.
Hmm.
Like finally someone who understands that these gods are not out for us, because that's
Right.
how Abinthy has felt for a very long time.
Right.
And then Cathar, of course, is for the devout, for the people who are like, where are the gods in this time of need? I believe in them, but I'm scared. Like,
Right.
have they really abandoned us?
Right.
And then Edward is for your average Joe,
Yeah.
like the
Just
just the people of the world.
right.
Um, and that was, I think, captured very well in our individual statements. Um, then we took our break.
Yeah. Then we took a break.
Then we got the band back together. We all grouped up and we planned hard for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Did
It
a lot of
was.
planning. Um,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, we don't have a whole lot of episodes left. We have like what, 2 to 3 at most.
Yeah. I mean, I it depends. I think it depends on what we're all trying to accomplish. Because like in I mean, I guess and really it's gonna really just depend on what happens when we show up where we're trying to get to. Because we determined basically it's like, all right, Clovar, well, first of all, it was revealed through some of the interrogation with Wisteria that Clovar is like, screw this whole controlling the six truths. I'm just gonna release them and let
Yep.
the world end in chaos. And so that's not good.
No.
And and so our main plan so far has been, okay, how can we minimize the damage, basically?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, basically we have to assemble all as many of our allies as possible and assemble like six elite strike squads to go to the different locations of places and try and free some people and try and take out some baddies. And we, as Fate's Gambit, have been tasked to go to the temple that most likely has Clovar there,
Mm-hmm.
which means, honestly, as soon as next episode, that could be the finale, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think so, just knowing who we are. I think the first half of that episode will be taken up by finishing role playing because we have like 8 hours to rest because we were pretty
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
taxed out.
We're all tapped.
Um,
It's like we just had, big fights.
Yep, and I know that Grant has some plans for some role play in the next episode. I have some plans for some role play in the next episode. Speaking of which, dude, role playing a non comedic scene with yourself is incredibly difficult. Good lord. Oh my goodness. You just kind of sound like an idiot.
Yeah, dude. 100%.
That's tough, bro. But yeah, so there's
what's the way? Oh man, I just now realized. You and I have had moments like that now.
Mm-hmm. And like you can comedic scenes you can do. We're like, oh, how are you doing? Well, yes, I'm good. Very well. Oh, that's good to hear. I'm good. Blah, 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 blah. And you just kind of rattle off some dialogue.
Right. But a serious conversation like you had between Avanthy and Tarak, dude, that was so intriguing to me. I was very impressed. Because the tricky thing, the reason why it's easy to make a comedic scene is just like, oh, you're just joking around with yourself at that point. You're not really necessarily caring about how authentic your role play of your two characters are. You're just trying to be funny. Versus what you did, where having a serious conversation between two different people when you're both of them.
Yeah.
Which becomes difficult of like, how do I continue to have this conversation be authentic to both these characters to the fullest extent and how they would genuinely interact with each other. I was very impressed by it, dude. Like, I thought you did great.
Second thing that's very hard to do, transitioning from British to Irish. And then back again. It like I can go from like English to Irish to English to British. But to go just from British to Irish, there's like such a few amount of differences in to make them sound in a specific way that oh man, you'll like, oh, hello Mr. Frodo, and then you're like, well, hello Mr. Frodo, but even the end still sounds Irish because I went Frodo, which is not what that's. It's like, it's tough.
This is completely off topic. I did find it somewhat amusing how you referenced English as in American English.
Yes.
Because I'm
it
pretty
would
sure
also be English, yeah.
Because in Europe, British people just refer to themselves as being English and not British. That's not important. I've just found that amusing just because I've been watching a lot of things.
To Irish to British to American accent just doesn't sound very good.
Well, I mean, even then, Americans have several different accents.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, hey there, bud. Like,
you got
so
you got
those
Southern
are two
American,
things that I learned are difficult
Northern American
to do. But yeah, I think that the next episode will be a little bit more roleplay, probably roleplay in the first half.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the second half is traveling to the scene, describing what's going on, and getting to the fight.
Right.
And then I think...
Yeah, and I suppose that's a tricky thing, too, is, determining, are we going to try to go to Wisteria Vale and try to see if there's stuff for us to do there quick? Or are we just trying to go straight to the temple,
I mean, I think that we stop by Wisteria Vale and then head towards the tomb or whatever it is.
Right. The tomb, the temple.
The tomb, temple, whatever it ends up being.
Also, this is an aside, which I forgot to mention last episode while we were making plans for role playing, which is a good thing. While we'll have more time to continue to make plans for role play next episode. But Catherine knows for sure where one of the other temples are. Yeah. Because that's where he met Melora way back in the day.
Yeah. You've got one. There's plenty of things to do. So I think it'll be at least 2 episodes. And then I think that it'll be 3 because we'll have an episode that is like the cleanup episode and ending episode.
Right.
And this is what I hope. And I've talked with Grant about this. This is what I'm hoping the last episode ends up being.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that the last episode we like do our things and we like Lord of the Rings it, where it's like, oh yes, and the war is over and there's a wedding and blah 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 or whatever.
Right, everything's happy.
Yeah,
it's
we
happy
do the
this
happy
wedding.
things, and then I hope that there's a time skip, and there's a time skip from the end of like stuff wrapping up stuff to Edward's deathbed.
Wow,
That's what I hope for.
That's what you hope for.
Absolutely, I hope that it shows up, because at this point in time, like with the time skip, here's another hope that I have. I hope Cather Gandalf's. That's what I hope. I hope that Cather ends up Gandalfing, where he's like,
I must go.
My time as Gandalf the White has come to an end. I must journey to the land of the elves. And then he like and then he just like is gone. Yeah. And then he's out, because he's like, my task has been completed. When I am needed again, I shall be found. Like, and then he Gandalf's out of there. So at this point in time, Cather has been gone for like, let's say Edward ends up living slightly longer than your normal elf, because he has like been touched by the divine creation magic. So he lives to be like 170. So like 150 years pass.
Yeah.
Like Fate's Gambit has gone semi-dark, right?
Yeah.
Like, Gambit's Keep stands empty, like except for rumors that occasionally people will appear there or something like that. You know, standard fantasy things. But like Cather has not been seen. Abinthy goes dark. Like after this, Abinthy goes like Abinthy's next 10 years are dedicated to erasing the fact that he ever existed.
Yeah.
Like he like travels to the Scholar's Guide and just burns every book with his name in it. Like, he starts Doctor Whoing it. He's like, I've become a little too seen, and then just starts erasing people's knowledge of him. So Abinthy's gone. Most people don't even think that Abinthy existed. Cather's gone. People barely think that Cather existed. Edward's on his deathbed. And then, like, they show back up, right? Like, and specific, Edward is dying in, like, some hodunk village.
Right, yeah.
Where he's, like retired
quiet, peaceful town where barely anyone actually knows who he is.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, there's Old Man Fellows.
Yeah.
Crazy that he has the same last name as that guy who owns the mines.
Right,
like,
yeah.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence that he has the same name as the dude who like saved the world like a couple centuries ago.
Edward's the only one that they were like, yeah, Edward was a real historical figure.
Right. Yeah.
Like, but they're like, it's not that guy.
Yeah, he's not that guy.
That's just the old man that like plays music and writes books. And he's like on his deathbed. He's like, and then Abinthy like strolls through the door looking younger than he was in the actual story. He's like 26.
Right. Yeah, because clone.
Exactly. And Edward's like, old friend, what are you doing here today? Traditional end of fantasy stuff. And Abinthy's like, hey man, I'm just saying my offer's still on the table. I've got a clone spell ready. and he's like, no, it is my time. Like, and Abinthy's like, hey man, I get it. And then a knock on the door happens again. And Cather strolls through. And Edward's like, Cather, it has been so long. What brings you here, old friend? And Cather's like, well, for such a worthy soul of yours, the gods of death deigned a mightier assistance to the end of your journey. And then, like, you're like, your time has come, old friend. Follow me. And then you're like, you literally, like, Edward doesn't die. You, like, walk him out the door and he returns to his youth as you proceed down the hallway until eventually you guys disappear. And then Abinthy's like, man, I hate that guy. And, like, that's how the episode ends.
Well, to share some of my thoughts on it, I think there is a definite potential that Cather just Gandalfs it, as you were saying. Part part of when I originally made the character, I had that in mind. Um, that being said, I think at this point I would prefer a different outcome for Cather. Um, I have a couple different in mind,
Ooh.
but the main one being that he would get to live out the rest of his days. Like he no longer has a free pass on death where,
Yeah.
you know, it's basically like, hey, you fulfilled like the main duty, your main duty as the champion of fate, like live out the rest of your days, right? Kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he would just basically live the rest of his life,
Settle down,
still
have a family.
yeah, and still fulfilling, some duties as the current champion of fate. He still is that. But
You're
then the next
tenured
time,
now.
but
So
yeah,
they're
it's
like, well, we can't fire you, but you really only
exactly
have to do half as much work.
right. But yeah, but really it becomes a thing of like, yeah, eventually like, he either dies of old age or he dies, adventuring
Mm-hmm.
still, something. Um, but definitely like living out some sort of, more happy ending for Cather. And who knows, maybe he becomes like a demigod and just never dies. I don't know.
Who knows? It can happen.
Um, but I do I talked to Grant about this recently because he was also picking my brain as for the end of the campaign. I do kind of love the idea of like the end of the campaign, like the finale happens, right? We defeat Clovar. We get like an immediate epilogue of like what happens, right? Like for over the next like month or so, right? And like we all get to describe like what we do over the next like year and what we do over the rest of our lifetime. But collectively, I would love the idea if like Fate's Gambit like was super active for like the next year and like putting like the world back on its feet, and then they just disappear and
Mm-hmm.
like just fade into legend,
Yeah.
and Gambit's Keep is like the one like signature thing of like, and like yeah, like you said, like occasionally like people say, oh, occasionally,
Like,
there are
oh, don't
figures
go near
spotted
Gambit's Keep.
within Gambit's Keep.
Yeah. And they're like,
But
well,
like
where did the name Gambit's Keep come from? And they're like, well, no one knows. Probably just through legend and rumor.
right, exactly. And like, yeah, eventually, and like their Fate's Gambit themselves just kind of fade into the background, where the only people who truly remember anything of that happened with Fate's Gambit, after 10 or so years, are the people directly connected to
Yeah.
members, and like this is also just me because I kind of love this kind of stuff where like in like said 10 years, like the 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 name of Fate's Gambit is just fully passed on into legend and is more considered just like a legend or a folktale. But
Mm-hmm.
like Abinthy, Cather, and Edward just every now and again get together and just do some ridiculous thing
Yeah.
that nobody realizes is them. Like some like like troll or something like attacks a village and all of a sudden the troll just
Yeah.
it shows
Whoa.
up dead.
just gets deleted.
just
Um,
gets just gets deleted. Everyone's like, "What the heck happened?"
yeah. And so one of my favorite things about the idea of us all showing up at the end for like Edward's death is the poetic idea of like Edward dying like as a mortal man,
Right.
but like two demigods
Yeah.
in the middle of some nowhere town
Yeah.
show up for one normal person.
100%,
Like
dude.
that's like such a thematic
Oh yeah.
like
I
feel to it. Oh my god, I
I
love it.
I 100% agree with you. Like I think ending with something like Edward's death at the end of his life would be very significant and very amazing. Just kind of because like again, like it does also fit into the narrative of like that we've always joked around of like Edward's the main character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so of course like it would fit that like, this whole story started kind of with Edward in his city,
Yep.
right? And so to see it end with Edward on his deathbed, just an ordinary dude, and then yeah, like being like surrounded by like yeah, like demigod level people with Abinthy and Cather and whoever, right? Would be very significant. It would be because it would strike the same chord. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a deleted scene from Avengers Endgame where after spoilers by the way, in Avengers Endgame, after Tony uses the stones
Mm-hmm.
uh and dies, like it kind of like it's the shot is initially on Tony as he dies and the light fades from his eyes. Yeah, yeah, right. And like he's and it kind of begins to slowly like kind of zoom out, and it shows like all the other Avengers beginning to kneel down and like and somebody
Mm-hmm.
points out like here's just this ordinary dude in a suit of armor who is being you know being basically people are kneeling down in respect for him, and you have kings, you have gods, you have
Yeah.
immortal men, all these people showing their respect, and it's pretty
It's
cool,
like that's like such a vibe, dude.
yeah, dude.
Um,
It hits a very special chord,
but yeah, so I'm excited to see how exactly we end this. Like, I I have like high expectations, but also like very achievable expectations.
hmm
Um, so yeah, I'm excited to see where we
yeah,
go with this.
yeah, who knows, like, yeah, but I definitely, yeah, like 3-ish episodes, 3 to 4 episodes, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
3 seems like the most likely number.
I think three seems pretty doable, even if the third one is like an hour long,
Right, yeah,
like
of just being
hour
the
to
epilogue.
hour and a
Yeah,
half, maybe 2 hours.
yeah,
Um, where it's like cleanup and then actual ending probably takes around an hour and a half to two.
right.
Um, but that's pretty much all I've got for today. Plus, I have a headache and have some
Yeah,
stuff that I'd
you've
like to be
been
doing.
a trooper.
So, for those of you watching and who have been here, thank you very much for your time. Um, we appreciate every second that you spend watching us do dumb stuff.
It is.
Um, so
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
fun.
have really anything else to say.
Yeah.
The only thing that I've got going on is to say good luck and Godspeed, everyone. We will see you next time, Dungeoneers. Goodbye. Goodbye.